Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. My name is Captain X, and in today's video, we're going to be going over every single setting that you need to know for playing Warzone on PC. Now, I've done videos covering different settings in the past, but those videos have been individual. So, for example, I did a video just on graphics, just on keybinds, just on sensitivity, etc. And I'll make sure to link all those in the description below if you want a little bit more detail of a video. But in this video, we're going to be covering all of the settings in one. So I'll be going through moderately quick with a little bit of explanation to still give you an idea of why I'm choosing those different settings. Now, if you came here looking for a specific setting, everything will be timestamped below based on what setting we're going over. So number one, let's actually start with a few Windows settings before we get into Warzone settings. So first, go into the Windows search bar and just type in power, and you're gonna have power and sleep settings come up. On the right side, do additional power settings. What you're going to want to do is you're probably going to be on balanced. You're going to want to change that to high performance. If it's not being shown, there might be a little drop down arrow. If you're on a laptop, you might not want to do this, but if you're on a desktop, high performance will help you just a little bit with performance. And then again, in the search bar, type in game, and we're going to have game mode settings. Go to Xbox game bar, and you're going to want to make sure this is off. This can actually take up a lot of resources on the PC that we don't want to be using. However, for game mode, you do want this on. This is going to optimize your PC for playing games. Now, another setting that is semi-new to Windows is hardware accelerated GPU scheduling. And if you're on a newer PC that has a pretty solid graphics card, you might try this. You do have to restart your PC to apply these changes. I've done it on and off. I don't know if I can notice a huge difference. It's kind of mixed reviews from what I've seen from doing a little bit of YouTube research, but give it a try and see if it helps. All right, so let's first start with graphics. I think that's one of the most common things that people want to know is how to maximize their FPS without making their game look like absolute crap. Now, when we first start, number one, full screen will actually get you the absolute best performance. However, I do a lot of streaming and it's important for me to be able to tab in and out. So I do prefer borderless. I don't notice much of a difference personally when I've tried the two, but full screen is the better option in terms of pure performance. In terms of this, the display monitor should automatically be on whatever your primary monitor is. Display adapter should be whatever your GPU is. You can only change your screen refresh rate if you're in full screen, but this should be on whatever your monitor's refresh rate is. And we'll go over this a little bit more in detail once we get into the NVIDIA control panel. Now, when it comes to render resolution, for the most part, you're going to want to leave this on 100. You can turn this down a little bit to like 70 or 80 if you're on a really low end PC to try to squeeze out some extra FPS, but your game will look a lot worse. Now, I've heard some people say that you can turn this number up to like 120, 130, and it will make your game look better with only a minimal FPS performance dips. Personally, I think just leaving it at 100 is perfectly fine though. Now, I am playing on a 1920 by 1080 monitor, and for some reason, when you're in full screen borderless, this will change to a number completely different. I'm really not sure why it does this, but I'm gonna just something to know about. Next, for aspect ratio, just leave that automatic. VSync, you definitely want to turn that off. If you are having significant screen tearing, where the screen is like in this example here, if you see it tearing like that, you could turn this on, but VSync on causes a lot of delay and is not good for smooth gameplay. In terms of custom frame rate limit, I have that on custom and advanced. I have gameplay cranked all the way to the max. Then I have my menu and out of focus just at 60 because there was no point of cranking your GPU super hard in the menu or when you're out of focus. Moving on to NVIDIA highlights, I have this disabled. Enabling this will allow you to automatically record highlights and whatnot, but it does take up a moderate amount of resources. So if it is very important for you to do this, you can leave it on, but just know it is going to hurt your FPS. NVIDIA Reflex low latency. Now, this is a little bit of an interesting topic. I've done as much research as I could on the topic, and enabling it absolutely does help your performance and increase the smoothness. However, some people are saying that enabled plus boost actually has some drawbacks to it. do some research yourself, play around. Personally, I really haven't noticed too much of a difference, but I've heard more people lately say boost is not the best, so I'm sticking to enabled. And then just so you know, this is only going to be an option if you have a NVIDIA graphics card. For display gamma, if you're on a PC monitor, you're going to want to be on 2.2. If you're on a TV, you'd be on 2.4. All right, for streaming quality and texture resolution, ideally, you want to go on normal as long as you have enough VRAM. If you're on normal and your VRAM is beyond this max, then this is not going to work for you. You're going to have to turn either of these down. Going to high doesn't really make that much of a quality difference, but it does really hurt your FPS. I recommend sticking to normal. Very low makes the game look really bad, but there's actually not that much of a performance difference from very low to normal. So for texture filter and anisotropic, just keep that on low. Particle quality, I actually want to keep this on high. There's been several people that have said this actually can improve your FPS and help with some of that glimmering with the trees. So keep that one on high. Bullets, impacts, and sprays preference. It doesn't really affect your FPS, so keep that on. Tessellation and on-demand texturing, you want to keep both of those off for the best FPS. Moving on to shadows. Shadows is one of the things that can really tank your FPS, so you want to keep that on low. Personally, I actually don't really notice that much of a difference from low to high, but it will hurt your FPS. However, you do want to keep both your cache spot and sun for the shadows on enabled. Particle lighting, you want to keep that on low. This can tank your FPS in explosions and things like that if it's on high. Ray tracing, definitely want to keep that off for FPS. Makes the game look really cool, but it will murder your FPS. Ambient occlusion and screen space reflection, keep those off. All of these guys, essentially, you can keep off. Now, I do play with anti-aliasing to the max. It will make the game look a lot smoother and better with pretty minimal effects to FPS. If you're on an older system, you might want to consider turning this off. Now, one thing I did here recently is that if you have this off, you should actually have your filmic strength to 100. So I'm playing with mine on, so I'm keeping mine off, or to my filmic strength on 0. Going over to NVIDIA DLSS really quick, this should only be on if you're on a 1440p monitor or higher, or a 4K. If you're on a 1080p like myself, you absolutely want to keep this off. This is not going to help your performance. I've heard mixed things about this. Even if you're on 1440, a lot of people say it doesn't even really help your performance, which is what it's intended to do. So again, I recommend just keeping that off. You can play around with it though, and kind of just follow the guides here for what type of monitor you have. Absolutely want to keep all of these depth of field blurs off. It makes the game look really bad and hard to play with. Keep film grain off. Dynamic resolution is this weird thing that it like will it will change your kind of graphic settings based on your FPS. I tried it and I do not recommend. Made the game super stuttery. Do not recommend. All right, let's move on to the NVIDIA control panel. This is a pretty important part that a lot of people tend to skip and a lot of people don't necessarily understand. I am going to put a YouTube video that is not mine in the description of where I got all of my settings. From Shogaz, I believe is how to pronounce it. He did a extremely detailed and in-depth guide on this, and ever since I've been using it, I feel like it's made my game both look better and perform better. So put that in the description below. But to get to your NVIDIA control panel, it only works if you have a NVIDIA graphics card, obviously. If you have an AMD card, I'm sorry, this is not going to apply for you. You just right-click on your display, hit NVIDIA control panel. When it first comes up, just do use advanced 3D image settings and then go to manage 3D settings. From here, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Again, everything is explained in very detailed in that video that I'll put in the description below. So this one, anisotropic filtering, you're actually going to want to turn this to 16 times. If you're on a relatively newer PC, I would say at least a like 16 series NVIDIA card, like 16 series, 20 series, 30 series card. We're gonna turn it to 16 times. It's not gonna hurt your FPS. It will make the game look smoother. But if you're on an old card, you might want to just leave that off altogether. I'll scroll through these quickly. Another one that is kind of an option is DSR factors. If you're on an older PC, definitely just leave this off. If you're on a newer PC, like myself, I have a 30 series graphics card. You can turn this actually to 4 with your smoothness to 33%. It's actually gonna make your game look a lot smoother and better without really hurting your FPS. Again, this is explained way more in detail in Shogaz's video. It's a little bit over my head, to be honest, but he did a very good job of explaining it and tested it as well himself. Continuing to go through here, another thing that is kind of a hot topic is this power management mode, prefer maximum performance. It's kind of a mixed, people say it really doesn't matter what you do. I'm just leaving it on maximum performance because why not? And then again here, this is the rest of everything. And again, like I said, it's explained a lot better than I can explain it to you in that video that I'll put in the description. Moving on, just a few other things that are very important to cover is you want to make sure you have the correct refresh rate on your screen. So whatever your gaming monitor is, mine is this XG258. Make sure for the resolution that you're not on these two, make sure you're on PC and that you're on whatever your resolution is. I'm on 1080, and then make sure your refresh rate is the highest that your monitor can go. And then one last thing for the adjust the video color settings, when we go down to here, go down to your main monitor, whichever one you're on, change this to within NVIDIA settings, go to advanced, and then make sure you put the dynamic range to full instead of limited. It's just going to help with your color a little bit. One other thing that you can do if you prefer is in the color, you can adjust things like your brightness, contrast, all that in here. It's up to you. It's something that I have not messed with personally, but it's your choice. All right, and now moving on to NVIDIA Filters. Again, this is going to be something that is only available if you have an NVIDIA graphics card. To do this, you're going to hit Alt-Z on the keyboard, and then this is going to pop up. Go to Game Filter. This is my personal filter. If you've watched any of my YouTube videos or streams before, you'll notice that my game pops a little bit, I think, and looks a lot better because for whatever reason, the colors and stuff in Warzone are very bad. So to do this, you would just hit Add Filter, and then you're just gonna search these. So the first one is color, which I'll show here. So we've got both tints at 0, temperature at 0, vibrance is at 30. Then you're gonna add brightness and contrast. Exposure 4, contrast 10, highlights -10, shadows -20, gamma 0. And then for details, we're going to be doing sharpen 35, clarity 40, HDR toning 6, bloom 0. This is going to be different per monitor. My filters are not like super oversaturated like you'll see other people's are. It just simply will help with lighting and make the game look a little bit more crisp. I try not to go overboard with my filters. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you're on an older PC, the filters will absolutely hurt your performance. For me, they probably drop my FPS maybe by about 15 FPS-ish, but in my opinion, it is absolutely worth it. It makes the game look way better and just way easier to see enemies with how bad the lighting is in Warzone. Now, here is a quick example of what my game looks like with my filters on. And then if we go really quick and we go off, you're gonna see the game just looks like way more blah. And especially in dark areas is where I think the filters make a pretty big difference. Turn it back on. Just a lot easier to see in these like interior areas, in my opinion. So again, I think it's worth it. And moving on, so we just covered graphics. Let's go through the general tab really quick. Let's first discuss field of view. Now I have an entire video going very in depth on field of view. In short, I recommend playing on the max 120 at affected ADS. If you don't like 120, try turning it on a little bit, but I'll put that video in the description as well if you want a way more in-depth view on that. The horizontal heads-up display, you can shrink in your HUD a little bit if you like that. I just leave mine at 100. Going through some of the other important ones here are colorblind mode. If you're not playing with filters, it is very good to play on Deuteranopia. The reason for that is it actually helps with the brightness and helps with lighting, especially in dark areas. There are several people that play on this. So for the absolute maximum performance, you want to leave filters off and then play with Deuteranopia colorblind type on. For your HUD, you absolutely want to make sure that your minimap shape is set to square. It actually shows more stuff on the map on square versus circle. Sorry, my screen is covering this up a little bit, but you will actually see a few things that you would miss otherwise if it was on a circle. Minimap rotation, I definitely recommend keeping that enabled, but that is personal preference. This is just for your compass. And then a lot of this isn't super important. Oh, one other thing. For the dismemberment and gore effects, you actually want to turn this off. This is like the blood and stuff. It actually will help with your FPS a little bit. So if you want the max performance, turn that off. In terms of the telemetry, this is just what shows on the top left. So way up here, I normally just keep my FPS, my latency, packet loss, and my GPU temp on. I don't leave all these on. It's up to you if you want to do those on or not. All right, and let's move over to audio now. Now, audio depends a lot on your headset, and it's going to be different per person. The two audio mixes I recommend sticking between, though, are either boost high or boost low. And again, this depends on your headset. I've played for quite a while on both. I think I like boost high a little bit more than boost low, but both are very good for maximizing hearing footsteps. Now, I have my master volume down to 55. This game is super duper loud, so I have it down quite a bit. The big thing is you want your effects volume left at 100 because that is what you hear your footsteps with. If that's any lower, you're not going to hear those as well. I have music completely off in this game, and I have dialogue down pretty low. If you turn that off, you're going to miss things like enemy UAV or, enemy inbound, things like that. So I would leave that up a little bit. Juggernaut music doesn't really matter. Hit marker sound effects, I like classic a little bit better. It's all preference, doesn't really matter too much. This is going to be your voice chat stuff. I'm on push to talk currently. Open mic is just like how loud you have to talk to get your mic to work. Recommend just turning it up a little bit from 0. Voice chat effect, turn this off. If you have this on like stealth comms or whatnot, it makes your mic and everyone else's mic sound really weird. And the war tracks is just when you're on a vehicle, if it plays the volume. I like it. I have it down just really low is all, but it's just personal preference. All right, moving on to keyboard and mouse. Now I have videos covering this way more in detail, so I'm just gonna go through this quickly, but I'll go over my sensitivity and just kind of some general stuff really quickly. For my mouse sensitivity, I'm playing on 1.6 with a DPI of 1600. Now, I'll link another video in there about why 1600 DPI is actually one of the best DPIs to play on. Basically, if you play on 800 or 400 DPI or like anything low, it actually increases the latency or delay in your mouse. So you want to play on 1600. So for example, I was playing on 800 DPI with a 3.2 cents for quite a while, but basically if you just, so I doubled my DPI from 800 to 1600, and then I cut my cents down in half. It still ends up being all the same. Again, if you want more details on that, I'll have it in my other video in the description. Now, when we go to advanced, I have all my multipliers on 1, except for the air vehicles multiplier. It just helps you turn a lot easier on mouse and keyboard when you're flying a helicopter, basically. Aim down sight, mouse sensitivity. Again, I cover relative versus legacy in my other video a lot more. Most people are gonna like doing relative, I think, because it's more consistent. If you're playing on relative, you need to set your monitor distance coefficient. And this is done by simply taking the resolution of your monitor and dividing it. So if you're on a 1920 by 1080 monitor, which is what most standard monitors are, if you take 1920 divided by 1080, that equals 1.78. If you're on a standard 1440p, that's also going to equal 1.78. The default is 1.33. That's actually incorrect for a standard 16:9 monitor. That's for a 4:3. So again, just take your big number resolution divided by the little number. That's going to be your monitor distance coefficient. And essentially what that does is it's going to keep, even when you get to the edge of your screen, it's going to make your sensitivity feel the same as from the center to the edge. It's kind of a confusing topic, but that's the best way to describe it. When it comes to my ADS sense, I keep both of these on 1 because I want my sense to be the same throughout. It's the best in my opinion in terms of learning muscle memory. Just keep whatever your hip fire sense the same as your ADS. A lot of people don't like that. I didn't play like that for a while. So if you want to turn this down, that's fine. That's kind of a preference thing. And then for ADS sensitivity transition timing, I do instant. So the moment I right click, my sense would change, but for me it doesn't matter because I'm on a 1-to-1 sense, so this actually doesn't matter for me. Invert mouse look, I have this off. This would flip pushing up and down. Unless you're like old, you're not gonna like this. This is more like the airplane feeling of like pushing down makes you look down. So don't really do that unless you're a boomer. Mouse acceleration and mouse filtering and mouse smoothing. Keep them all to 0 or off. I promise. Don't do it. It's bad. All right, and then I'm gonna quickly go through keybinds. I have an entire video covering keybinds, but I do wanna go through some of these because these are very important with behavior. Slide, make sure that's on tap. It's gonna make slide canceling way easier. Crouch and prone, I think toggle is ideal. Turn off automatic mantle. Trust me, it'll help you. Tack sprint. I highly recommend playing on automatic tactical sprint. It is awkward getting used to if you haven't done it before, but it will absolutely make your movement far better. Pretty much almost all of the like pros or high level players play on auto tac sprint. The only downside to auto tac sprint is it does make shooting shotguns very awkward. It's a little bit tricky. You can't be sprinting and shoot a shotgun at the same time. So if you love shotguns, maybe not for you, but otherwise definitely recommend it. I have auto deploy from a parachute off because you can get a little bit low to the ground. But if you're like Tim the Tap Man, you have a lot of fall damage, maybe leave that guy on. Hold to use, just turn that off. Much easier just to do tap. All right, I'm going to quickly go through keybinds. I have a little bit non-conventional keybinds. Again, I have a full video covering this, so I'll leave that in the description below if you want a little bit more explanation to why I do these things. So your standard WASD, I use X for use. Yes, don't judge me. Standard jump. Crouch is left shift. Actually, I have C as well. I have 2. Don't judge me. I actually don't really use the C one. I should probably get rid of it, but I have both because sometimes I was forgetting which one was which from other games. My prone is on its own individual key. It's E. This makes it very easy for drop shotting. I don't use the change stance or slide. I do have a sprint button. It is my thumb button on my mouse right here, my back one, but this is also my hold breath button. And then let's see, you can set these individually, but I don't have those set. Sprays, left alt, not super important. Weapons, we'll go through these really quick. I'll just show these. Nothing super duper important here. Leave your ADS behavior to hold. That means you have to hold the right click instead of toggle it. I don't recommend it. This is a new feature. I haven't messed with it yet, but you can make it so you can just tap your steady aim button to hold your breath. I just have it on hold, so I have to hold it, but it's kind of a new thing that they just came out with. Let's see. Equipment behavior, I do recommend hold. You could do either or though, really. This is like holding your grenade. So if you want to throw a grenade, you have to hold your grenade button and then let it go to throw. If it was toggle, you would hit it once to hold it and hit it again to throw it. But I like hold, but it's kind of personal preference. Fire weapon, aim down sight, very standard. Don't judge me. My caps lock is reload. Yes, I know. The reason for that in short is because it frees up R, because I think R is a very useful key for quick things you need to get to. So I use R as my next weapon to cycle weapons. Don't judge me. I know I'm going to get hate in the comments for it. I'm sorry. Weapon mount, I use Z. Alternate fire is like switching to semi-auto or not. N, it's not a very important button. I really use it all. My melee is F because it's very easy for me to hit. It's very close. My lethal is one of my thumb buttons here on the side. The reason I do this is because it allows me to freely move my with WASD and not worry about not being able to strafe. If, for example, if you were to put your grenade as like E or Q, you can't strafe because you would have to take your fingers off that to do that. So that's why I have it on my mouse actually. And then tactical equipment is actually pushing the scroll wheel. Night vision goggles, doesn't matter, you don't use it. Field upgrade, this is like throwing a loadout. Popping a dead silence is 1. Do whatever you want there. Weapon inspect doesn't really matter. And yep, that's for weapons. Kill streaks. One of the big things I definitely recommend is having armor plate behavior to apply all. This allows you to just hit that play button once, and then your guy is going to put them all on at once. It's a lot harder with apply 1. Definitely do apply all. Kill streaks. So this is like calling in a UAV, calling in a precision. The only one you really need in Warzone is the first one, so I use 2. Use whatever you want though. And then for plate, I think default is 4. I use 3 though. It's just a little bit closer for me to reach. It's personal preference though. None of these matter that much except for air vehicles. Highly recommend making this change. So the default for air vehicles is weird and it's very hard to turn and go up and down at the same time. So again, I have my ascend, or I have my descend as my mouse button. And then I have ascend as space because that's my thumb. So this allows me to freely go up and down and move the vehicle while I can ascend or descend. So everything else is pretty default there. Overlays and shortcuts, none of this is that important. Besides your map, default M. I actually have mine on V. It's just way easier for me to reach with my thumb instead of reaching all the way over to M. Again, it's personal preference. Ping, very important. So I have my ping on Q. That seems really weird. The reason I is on Q, it is super easy to ping and shoot at the same time. It's very easy for me to be shooting at someone, hit ping, get a live ping. Ping is very important in this game, so I use Q. Inventory tab, pretty standard. F9 and F10 has had to quickly mute game chat and mute game sound, just as an FYI. Menu navigation, this is all pretty standard. Don't need to change anything there. Now I don't play controller, but I'll super quickly like just scroll through this. I've played a controller growing up, but I've been on PC for about 3 years and always played mouse and keyboard. I played controller a handful of times, but it's not my thing. The only thing I would say in terms of controller, if you play controller, is I'm pretty sure scale aim assist with fob is good. Helps your aim assist. And then the other thing is you definitely want contextual tap for use and reload behavior. It makes it just way easier instead of like holding it. Besides that, I'm not here to help you with controller settings. Not my ish. All right, guys. I think that's everything. Hopefully I covered everything. If that helped you, please consider dropping a like for me. It helps me a lot in the YouTube algorithm, and maybe even drop a comment. That helps too. And then guys, if this video helped you as well, consider dropping and guys, also consider dropping a sub to the channel. I do lots of other settings videos, but a lot of my content is based more on like short form content has been very big for me. Gameplay, best loadouts, strategies, things like that. I also stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/TCaptainX. If you want to come hang out, ask me a question, say what's up, say hello. Pretty awesome little community we got going over there. So guys, thank you for watching all the way if you're still here. I hope the video helps you. Please feel free to ask me questions below. Have a great one. Hopefully you don't run into any cheaters soon.